this one's wife, you have a major problem. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. Problems continue to stack up for the Sussexes, and here's a rather interesting one which presents as a major problem for them. Jack Royston, who ordinarily has been a Sussex kiss-ass, has written an article in Newsweek which presents quite a problem for the Sussexes. He explains, Prince Harry and this one's wife's charity has released a report highlighting the importance of authenticity to young people. But the findings chime with numerous major criticisms of the couple throughout their post-royal lives. In a delicious slice of irony, Archwell conducts some research which actually then demonstrates a problem for the Sussexes. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex's Archwell Foundation conducted interviews with 106 young people, aged 10 to 25, across the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and Panama. Why Panama? To find out what they look for in leaders. And it found that young people have grown tired of the inauthenticity of influencer culture. Oh dear, that's not so good for this one's wife, seeing as that's what she is these days. Preferring role models who are not motivated by profit. Oh dear, that's a problem for this one's wife, seeing as that's what she's motivated by. And making impact for causes they care passionately about. Oh dear, this one's wife just claims to care about certain causes when it's quite clear that she doesn't. Oh dear, bit of an own goal there, Archwell. Imagine that. You've conducted some research and it demonstrates that the very person who heads up your organisation clashes with what young people want. The findings are striking, writes Royston, but make difficult reading alongside the facts of the first 5 years of Harry and this one's wife's US lives, which saw them sign multi-million-dollar deals for content creation. In fact, certain passages of the report could serve as a convincing explanation of the couple's decline in public opinion during the years in which audiences appeared to grow tired of their narrative about the royal rift, or in other words, people were sick and tired of them playing the victim. Now, this might be an attempt to try and suggest, it isn't really their fault, it's just that tastes have changed. That's why things aren't working out. The reality is, people have been tired of their behaviour, tired of their whining, tired of their attacks on the royal family, tired of them repeatedly seeking attention when they claim to want privacy. Nevertheless, a Sussex source disputed this point to Newsweek. To cast all young people as though they would take umbrage with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex for making money is just an oversimplified assessment of who they are as people, and what I think that report is trying to say. Young people, as it relates to the brands and the things that they associate with or feel an affinity to, are largely driven by activism. It's why young people love Ben & Jerry's. It's why young people love Patagonia. It's why young people love activist-driven brands. And if you were to look at Harry and this one's wife as an activist-driven brand, which I would argue they are, they focus on showing up, doing good, and handing over a disproportionate amount of their wealth, excuse me, compared to the average Joe to good causes. That they have to make money is a moot point. We all do, unless you're a member of the institution, namely the royal family. A little bit of a barbed finish to that comment from the Archwell spokesperson. Now, first of all, this one's wife and Harry do not hand over a disproportionate amount of their wealth. They hand over other people's money through Archwell. So that's bullshit. There we are, the bullshitometer went off. And this one's wife and Harry don't have an activist-driven brand. They like to think of it as that, but their brand through Archwell is simply a vehicle which allows them to utilise funds, primarily from USAID, but that's been stopped, so that they can then skim off a nice chunk of money for themselves in relation to clothing, security, accommodation and travel costs. It is a scam. It's part of their grifting. And therefore, for them to suggest that they have an activist-driven brand and that they hand over a disproportionate amount of their wealth, what a load of shite. The report concludes that 4 consistent themes emerge in how youth define leadership in the digital age, which are: true leadership is about authenticity and credibility. Now, this one's wife loves talking about authenticity, but she is as inauthentic as they come as a consequence of her narcissism. Therefore, she doesn't meet the criteria for true leadership. That true leadership is not about money or followers. Well, for this one's wife, it is. True leaders take action and show impact. She doesn't. She just talks a lot. True leadership often starts offline. Where does this one's wife spend a lot of her time these days? Oh, I know, on Instagram, with a daily diet of shitty as ever posts and occasional personal posts from her Meghan account. In an online world flooded with fake personas and curated perfection, authenticity is the gold standard for true leadership, the report states. Young people see real leadership as requiring honesty about one's life and struggles, rather than promoting unrealistic standards. Now, you just know that when this one's wife reads this report, the delusion of her narcissism will cause her to believe that she is a true leader, that she's authentic and credible, that she's not about money or followers, that she takes action and she shows impact, and that her leadership starts offline. She will believe that, even though the evidence is to the contrary. Meanwhile, the report's authors note that the term influencer is seen as innately profit-motivated. For example, in Panama, a young person remarked, "Influencers focus more on marketing to tell you something, and the end game is to make money and to get views, because that's how they win. But we win absolutely nothing." These digital natives are quick to spot when someone has sold out their platform and audience for financial gain, the report continues. As an American participant says, "We see it time and time again that someone who started quite authentic and really true to their own views and values all of a sudden is open to the highest bidder." Well, of course, because many of these individuals that haunt the online environment are narcissists, because being in that online environment and having a platform allows them to do what? Assert control over lots of people, draw fuel from lots of people, acquire character traits from those people, and residual benefits, money being the largest one. The fact is, it draws lots of narcissists, and narcissists are not authentic in that regard as a consequence of the fact that they're chameleons and that they are pursuing subconsciously the prime aims. Intriguingly, some respondents felt influencers could be activists, politicians, entertainers, or community leaders, but the key was the motive and intention behind what they're posting. Well, when you know that it's a narcissist, the motive and intention is the pursuit of the prime aims, even if they don't know it. Harry and this one's wife had everything the young people described when they were in the monarchy. They had no need to turn a profit because they had public funding bolstered by money from the Duchy of Cornwall, a property portfolio that funds the heir to the British throne, who at the time was King Charles III. Their working week involved virtually nothing other than giving back through good causes they could choose themselves, reflecting the issues they genuinely cared about. They still give money and time to good causes, of course, but in their new lives they need an income. After stepping away from the monarchy, they faced some big decisions about the kind of life they wanted. They chose a $14 million mansion in Monte Shitshow and had a private security team which added to their annual bills. Needless to say, all of this required substantial income, and they quickly signed multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix and Spotify before adding a mega publishing contract for Harry's book Spare. Those media organisations all wanted content exciting enough to justify the huge paychecks. The Sussex source said from Spare, £1.5 million went to good causes. They have to have jobs because they've left the institution. Harry and this one's wife clearly did want to sell their story. This one's wife let slip some of their criticisms of the palace in court filings in 2020 in a lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday over a letter she sent her father. An indication some may think that she would always wanted to get her concerns off her chest, or in other words, to assert control that way. Either way, this one's wife and Harry's first royal bombshells came in an interview with Oprah Winfrey. The signposting was clearly intended to diffuse any PR backlash over inauthenticity and profit motivation of the kind the young people said they opposed. However, after Oprah, the couple did not continue to swerve all payment for their swipes at the royals. Their first Netflix project was a docu-series, which we all know about. Then Spare came out, and it was at this point, in January 2023, charted a collapse in the couple's popularity among Americans. By June 2023, their Spotify deal disintegrated, with Bill Simmons calling them fucking grifters. In other words, he, at that point, appeared to be suggesting, rightly or wrongly, that they were profit-motivated and inauthentically oversold their value to the company. Then, the article lists some of the statements that have been made by Harry and this one's wife that have been disputed. It relates to the unnamed royal family member voicing concerns and conversations about the child's skin. And then it talks about the way that she had the cut interview with Alison P. Davis and flung open the proverbial doors to her life, as any millennium woman would do, by taking hardship and turning it into content. The fact is that they have then repeatedly faced allegations of inauthenticity, whether it's fair or otherwise. It talks about the fact that her With Love Meghan series wasn't actually filmed at her house but in a rental property. The reviews of that were brutal. That it was described as a deranged, bizarro world voyage into the centre of nothing. Basically, Royston's report concludes, if young people prize authenticity and credibility, then those are two areas in which Harry and this one's wife have lost some of the goodwill they built up during their time as working royals. And therein lies the irony, that as working royals, they didn't have to worry about money, and they could actually be authentic, well, at least the extent to which this one's wife could be as a narcissist, but at least Harry could be authentic by turning their attention to charities. They didn't need to worry about making money. They could just do the charitable work and therefore at least appear far more authentic than they actually have been. Now, it's all about the money. And whilst this one's wife bangs on about authenticity, what has happened, and is highlighted by Royston, utilising the Archwell report and the history of this one's wife and Harry, is that they don't have authenticity, that they've lost it. And basically stating that what they're doing is seen as profit-motivated action. Yet if what young people, he writes, want to see from leaders is impact, Harry and this one's wife have significantly reduced their ability to deliver that outside the monarchy. They do, after all, far less charity work now that they have bills to pay compared to their time as working royals. It paints a bleak picture, and it's their own foundation's research. So as mentioned, the irony is not lost that their foundation talks about what young people look for in terms of leaders, and those things are missing when it comes to Harry and this one's wife. Not that this one's wife will be able to see that, because her narcissism will blind her to it. But it is an interesting article, all the more so that it comes from Jack Royston, who ordinarily is very supportive of the Sussexes. Perhaps he's started to see the way the wind is blowing and has decided that he's going to distance himself from the arse-licking that he once engaged in. But it amounts to a major problem. It's a major problem because their own report demonstrates what young people want, and we know that this one's wife likes to chase the attention of young people, but it also highlights the very things that she doesn't have, and that their behaviour clashes with those values that have been reported in the Archwell survey that was undertaken. It's also a problem for the likes, where you have the likes of Royston that appear to be highlighting the lack of authenticity on this one's wife's part, and after all, it's one of her buzzwords. She loves to talk about being authentic, even though she's probably the least authentic person on the planet. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.